There are crimes that horrify because they're brutal. There are crimes that horrify because they're senseless. And then there are crimes that horrify because everyone involved turns a woman's trauma into a group project. Welcome to 1906, when a millionaire shot another millionaire during intermission, and America decided the real entertainment would be watching a young woman explain her abuse to a room full of men. This is the story of Henry Kendall Thaw, Evelyn Nesbit, and the trial that taught the United States it really, really enjoys moral theater. Welcome to Simply Suspicious. Before Evelyn Nesbit became a headline, a scandal, or a cautionary tale men used to argue with each other, she was a teenager trying to survive New York City. She was born in 1884 and moved to New York young, and quickly became a successful artist, model, and chorus girl. She was famous, yes, but more importantly, she was financially vulnerable in a world where beauty was currency and consent was optional, which meant powerful men noticed her. And by noticed, I mean targeted. Stanford White was one of the most famous architects in America. Madison Square Garden, McKim, Mead & White, cultural tastemaker, social darling. He was also known for pursuing very young women. When White met Evelyn, she was still a teenager. He courted her with money, gifts, access, and then sexually assaulted her. This was not shocking information to people in elite circles. It was an open secret, the kind society politely ignores when the man involved is talented, rich, and useful. And this is where the story usually goes wrong, because people like to pretend the next man in Evelyn's life was different. But he wasn't. Henry Kendall Thaw was an heir to an enormous fortune and had been deeply unstable for most of his life. Violent outbursts, paranoia, obsession, and rage issues dressed up as righteousness. When Thaw learned about Stanford White, he didn't respond with empathy for Evelyn. He responded with ownership of Evelyn. He recast himself as her savior, her avenger, her moral judge, which is a fun trick men have always loved because it lets them feel heroic while still controlling the narratives when we're looking at these kind of circles. They married in 1905. It was volatile immediately. Thaw was jealous, abusive, and fixated on Evelyn's purity, quote unquote, which, historically speaking, is never a good sign. And then he decided to make it everyone else's problem. On June 25, 1906, Thaw attended a performance at Madison Square Garden's rooftop theater. Stanford White was there. During intermission, because apparently this needed an audience, Thaw walked up to White and shot him 3 times at close range. No confusion, no discussion, no accident, and no remorse. White died almost instantly in front of hundreds of people who had paid for a show and accidentally got a murder instead. And America loved it. The trial was a feeding frenzy. Newspapers printed everything: transcripts, sketches, commentary, opinions from men who had never experienced consequences in their lives. Evelyn Nesbit was forced to testify about her sexual assault in graphic detail, not because it was necessary for justice, but because the public demanded the spectacle. The defense argued Henry Thaw was temporarily insane, driven mad by righteous outrage. The prosecution accurately argued that this was premeditated murder. The jury couldn't agree the first time, so a second trial was had, and they found Thaw not guilty by reason of insanity. So Thaw was committed, not imprisoned. He was eventually released and continued being exactly who you'd expect. Stanford White became a complicated historical figure, his architecture praised, his predatory behavior frequently minimized because men like that are always remembered for their work first. And Evelyn Nesbit? She spent the rest of her life trying to escape a story that had turned her into evidence, excuse, and spectacle, but never into the person whose autonomy actually mattered. The trial that claimed to defend her honor ensured she would never be allowed peace. This case didn't just uncover a few awful men behaving badly, it showcased the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Women's pain became a bargaining chip, men's violence got a full PR team, and money, unsurprisingly, decided who was destroyed and who was merely misunderstood. If this feels familiar, it should. We didn't outgrow this, we just updated the costumes. Different century, same script. That's today's case. a murder during intermission, a trial as entertainment, and a woman whose life was permanently consumed so men could argue about morality. Thanks for listening to Simply Suspicious. Please make sure to rate and review and follow us over on Instagram at simply_suspicious. Bye, y'all.